Josh is with us, Josh Rayburn, and he'll be monitoring the chat. So if I'm not paying any attention to the chat, he'll be answering your questions. This slide presentation that I have showing you on the left, the bit.ly to it, I've posted, and it's bit.ly/formsjulie. It's something I used for an hour and a half PD, so we won't be covering all of this because we're not staying here this long. In the presentation, it's got a little bit about each type of different question, how to start. That's how to start a form. I'm going to get into forms in just a second and show you all this, but the presentation shows you what some of the buttons are. As I scoot on down, it shows what some of the different questions are about, the different types of questions that you can have in there. One of the easiest, and if the question can be auto-graded, I put a big auto-grade sign on it, a button on there that shows you that it can be auto-graded, because some of them don't work with auto-graded, and the fact that you can insert videos and insert pictures. So if there's something I forget, the presentation may help you. Also, at the end of the presentation, a couple of videos that were from other people, how to get on lynda.com, which you access with your Lexington Public Library card for free, has some videos. If you're interested in getting your Google Educator certification, there's more information there. And this would be all the information that you would need about Google Forms and quizzes and all if you were going for the Google Educator certification. It covers more information than forms, but the forms part, that's the information you would need. So if you find that helpful, it's available. What I want to do now is move to my Google Drive. And you can get there through the waffle and get to your Google Drive. You can type it. I've gotten so that I just bookmark it so that it's one click. I like when I can get to things with one click. You can see I'm a folder person in my Google Drive. I really like to keep things in folders. I've started playing even with emojis in my folders. And if you were working in Microsoft and to save something, you do File, Save As, and you'd put it in the right folder. You can't do that with Google stuff. You can come in after the fact and find all the things. I'm making you dizzy now. I'm sorry. Let me scroll to the bottom. All the things I've never gotten into folders, and you can grab them and drag them into a folder later to organize. But what I find easier, if I know what I'm working on, is to create the folder first. So if I was doing for today, I'm going to do one just called training because it's training. Or if I was teaching a certain subject, it might be the name of my unit, or I might want to make a document for all my Google Forms and keep them all in the same location. So I would click on the plus sign at the top under Google Drive, and I'd click on folder. Today, I'm going to call it training. When it creates it, who knows, it's going to alphabetize, so it could be anywhere on your screen. And so it does highlight it in blue to help you find it. I'm going to open up the folder. And now if I create my forms, they're going to be inside this folder, and I don't have to organize it later. I find that easier. So there is more than one way to open up forms. I prefer to open them up from my drive. I'm going to click my new button again. No, I don't want a folder. There we go. It's not listed on the front. You have to come to more and slide your mouse over. Before I click, I want you to see on Google Forms, there's an arrow next to it. The first choice is blank form. Well, if I was over here on the left and I just clicked Google Forms, it would give me a blank form. So there's no reason to go over there and click that. But the thing you may want to look at some point is from a template. And some people go to forms a different way and go straight to the templates. But if you want to see the templates they've already got made for you, they have a quiz that already starts out as a quiz. A blank one that starts out as a quiz already has some features turned on. And they have some other templates that you may want to check out later. Today, we're going to start with a blank Google Form. So I'm just going to click on Google Forms. And because I did that inside the folder, it's saved in the folder. First thing I usually do is title my form. And I wouldn't usually call it practice, but I am today. It would usually be called the name of the subject that I'm teaching about, if I'm giving, or what I'm gathering information about. And the next thing I like to do after I title it is in the top left where it says Untitled Form. If I click that right now, it will name it the same thing that I've typed it, and I haven't had to do any typing. You don't have to keep that. I can click back up here on the file name on the top left, and I could type and make that different than the title, but so often mine are the same that I leave that alone. Up on the top right, there's a place where you can customize and change your colors. The little eyeball is preview. We might look at that later. There are settings we're going to look at in just a second. When you finish this, and I'm going to mention this now because I sometimes forget to mention it towards the end, but this really is something at the end. When you get ready to send this, don't send it using the URL up here on the top, because if you send that, somebody thinks they're going to edit your form, and then if you send that out to all your students, your parents, they're going to open it up and be locked out of it, and they're going to ask for permission. So if somebody's asking for permission to your form, you probably used the wrong URL. Click on send, and usually I click on the middle button that looks like a link and grab this and copy it, and that's what I would post in an email or use it in my Google Classroom or in Canvas to assign it, and that would be the link that I would be using. The other thing I'll mention about the 3 dots, if someone else is going to help you collaborate on this form, so they're going to be able to edit it, maybe a co-teacher, you're going to add them as a collaborator. Notice there's not a share button at the top. So add collaborator means they can change your form. If you make something and you want to share it with someone, but a co-teacher who wants their own, don't share this one. If they're going to make it for their own copy, for their own class, make a copy of it first, make them a collaborator of the copy, so then they're not using your form, or else they're going to give that to their students, and their students' data is going to be mixed in with yours. So important to sometimes make, if you're going to want somebody else just wants a copy of yours, make a copy and then make them a collaborator of the copy. The other thing I wanted to show you was preferences down here at the bottom. You can set up the form ahead of time to have, to collect email addresses. You might want to turn that on as a default so that always it does that. You can always turn it off when you start it, but you can have that turned on so it usually does that. If you usually make all your questions required, you could turn that on here as a default, and so it always starts that way. And when you have quizzes, if your quizzes are usually, each question is 5 points or 10 points or 1 point, what you usually make all your point value. Start it out there. Doesn't mean you can't change it on the quiz, but then it's done some of the work for you. I'm going to leave off that one. I'm going to click save. Now, sometimes preferences don't kick in to the next form, so they may not kick in on this one. The other item at the top, I know you're anxious to create the questions, is settings. And let's look at these. We've got 3 things: general, presentation, and quizzes. Here's where collect email addresses were. So if I turned that on, I could unclick it. If I was making this with my students, I would definitely want collect email addresses. I'm also going to ask them their name, but I kind of want to make sure if I've collected email addresses, I know who's logged on to the device that they're using. And so if John tells me he's figured who's the name and he tells me it's John, but Sally it's collecting Sally's email address, I'm really kind of wonder if Sally took the quiz for John. And so I collect email addresses for some things. You can restrict it to users for Fayette County if your kids are doing it and they're logged in, and especially on their Chromebooks. If you're sending this out to parents and you want parents and they don't have a Fayette County email address, you'd want to check that off. If sometimes I take it off anyway, because sometimes people have problems with it, and I just kind of look at the email address I collected to make sure that who it is I'm seeing it from. You could, if it was a quiz, limit it to 1 response. You could let the respondents edit after they submit. You could let them see a summary of everything. I don't know that I turn that on very much. And for forms, a lot of times we don't even limit to 1 response. I don't know if you want them to take the quiz more than once or whatever. It depends on what it is. Presentation, I've clicked on the middle link. The top one says show progress bar. You know the quizzes that you've taken and there's a little bit on the page, and then at the bottom you click next. And then you fill out a little bit and then you click next, kind of to go to multiple pages. If the progress bar is turned on, then it might show the student that you're on page 1 of 5 and now you're on 2 of 5. Sometimes that's nice because the kid, and we all like to kind of know how much more we've got to do. If you click here on shuffle question order, It will shuffle the questions, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes that can mess you up. If you make multiple sections of your quiz, it only shuffles within that section. I worked with a middle school teacher who had the first section was the student's name, the second section was multiple choice questions, the next one was short answer, the next one was a discussion question. Those were all different sections. I'll show you how to break those up. And we turned on shuffle and then went to see what it did. And all the multiple choice questions still stayed with it, shuffled those, but it didn't mix up the multiple choice questions with the true false questions with the short answer questions. So I liked what it was doing. I don't know that you're going to need this while the kids are working at home. You might like this more when the kids are sitting side by side and they can't look over to each other and say, okay, question number 2, the answer is B or something like that, because everybody's question number 2 is a little bit different. Show link to submit another response. Sometimes you can make these quizzes more like reviews for information or gathering information, not really a test. You want the student to learn from it, so sometimes you want to let them have another link. At the bottom, when they click submit, you get that response sheet that comes back, and if you don't type anything in the box, it's going to say your response has been recorded. If you want to say something nicer to your students or parents, you could say, thank you for filling out this form. Or if you're in the classroom, remember to go back and do so-and-so next, the next assignment. So you could give them some more information. Now, if you want to make it quizzes, this one's important. The last one says quiz, and I want to make, if I could use that template I said called quizzes, and this would already be turned on. But if I start with a blank one, I'm going to click on that button. I'm not really dragging it. I'm just clicking and it pops over to the right and it turns on as a quiz. It says lock mode. It's going to lock down and they can't get to any other page. If you turn this on, I really think it's going to only work on Fayette County Chromebooks, and I don't know if it works when they've got the Chromebook at home or if it only works when they're within the school. But if your student is working on their own computer, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to lock anything. Do you want them, because it's a quiz, it can be auto-graded. If you make, some questions can be auto-graded and some you're going to have to grade yourself. Depends on what kind of questions you use. So when the student clicks submit, do you want them to see their grade right then? That might be okay if everything was auto-graded. That might be okay if down here it says, are you going to show them the missed questions, the correct answers, the point values? You might not want to show them the correct answers. If you want to give them a chance to take the quiz again, you want them to figure out the answer. The other thing is, if you're going to let them see the answers as soon as they submit the quiz, are they going to tell the other kids what the answers are? So that's kind of up to you, whether it's that kind of a quiz or if it's just a review. Later, after manual review, if you change release the grade, after you finish grading them, there's a button you're going to have to click that says release grades, and then it would send to their email. I'll leave that one on so I can show it to you. And notice there's a save button at the bottom, so all these changes won't be just saved unless I click save. Okay, not too bad. Right now at the top, I'm in questions. Over to the right, it says responses. When the kids start responding, this is where I will see their responses. I can turn the quiz off and not turn it on, or the form, until I want them to use it. There is a green button that if I click this, it creates a spreadsheet. And for every question that I create, it creates a column in the spreadsheet. And other things in the dots we're not going to go over now. So there is a way to see all your responses in a spreadsheet, because in case you're going to need to put the answers, the grades into Infinite Campus or something. Now the fun part, questions. You start with pretty much what's called the text box over here, and it starts with one question. When I want to add more items, those items are all over here on this bar. The first one says add a question. The second one says import a question. If I click on this, it's going to go out and look for my other forms and look for other questions. I didn't think I'd want to use that much until I made one of those questions that said, what's the name of your school? Drop down arrow, and you had 60 choices. And then I got to the next form where I had to do that. And I thought, I don't want to type all those schools again. And I clicked import and went back to one of the other forms and imported that one in. So I think you may find a time to use that. A text box is going to add something more like where up here where it says practice. If on the side, if I click add image, it's going to add a big image to the form, but not the question. So it kind of pops it into the middle of here. There's a way to add a video. A video only works to be added into the form. You can't add it into a question. Then you would put a question under it. We'll show you that in a little bit. And this, I talked to you about dividing the form into sections. So this is where I would divide the form in the section. My first section is almost always going to be asking the student their name. And because I like their first name to be in one column and then their last name to be in another column, I can either duplicate this box. Down here there's a duplicate button, or I can click plus, and I'm going to ask for their last name in the separate box so that when I go to the spreadsheet, I can alphabetize by last name or find a student by last name. Notice that each question as I click is in its own box. Let's look what's in this box. At the top, next to up here where I put the name of the question, was just first name, there is a little box that says picture. And if I click and add a picture at this, let's just search for something really quick. No, not my Google Drive. Google image search. Oh, he's cute. This is not a picture I would put asking for their first name. So it's not the appropriate place for the picture. But if I was going to have a question and I want the picture as part of the question, it's that box that I'm using. I can click on the dots and remove it, change it, right align it if it came in smaller, whatever. But that's the place that I would add the picture. Guess I should remove it. It shouldn't be under first name. And because it's a short answer, there's not a place to add pictures down here because it's asking the kids to type. That would be more under multiple choice. So we'll look at that a little bit more. On the bottom right, remember we're all within this question box, there are dots. Under every type of question, and remember this one's short answer. If I click on that drop down box, I can ask paragraph. That's when they want to type a longer answer, and the box grows as they're typing so they can see everything they've typed. And there's all these different types of questions that are explained in a little bit more. You're just going to have to play, but they're explained a little bit more in the presentation. And then based on what you change that to, the whatever's under these dots are going to change. You can make this required. I would make it required for the students to have to fill this out. If you're making a long quiz and you want to try it out under preview, sometimes it's nice to leave the requireds off till the end, because every time you preview it and you practice on it, you have to do all the requireds, but we can turn that on. And then a trash can to delete it, to duplicate it. I made a question once with a middle school teacher, and there were definitions down here at the bottom. At the top was the word, and the student had to select the definition. And then we duplicated that question, put a different word up here, and switched around the answers a little bit, shifted the answers so that I didn't want to have to retype all that, so we duplicated the question. There is a way to shuffle the answers for each student that's going to be in a multiple choice question, so we'll need to look at that a little bit. Answer key, I'm going to click on that, but I'm going to make this question work 0 points because they probably don't get mark all other answers incorrect. No, I'm not going to mark anything incorrect because I haven't marked a correct answer under that one. There is a way to put some things in there, but these questions just asking. So if I had left my point value at 0, I wouldn't have to change this, but later when I got ready to add my other questions, I would have to do that. If I'm a middle school teacher, I might also want to add a question. If I'm having everybody fill out the form about what their class is, and I might have in here, you know, first hour, second hour, or if you are, have different teacher names, you might want them to select it. It also helps with middle school that you've collected their email address so that they don't collect their email address and tell you they're in your first hour class, and you look at who that really is and you say, no, you're not, you're in the second hour class. So usually in this first section, I would collect information about them. And a lot of times, to keep it from being so long, I do create another section. So to add a section on the right, it's the bottom button. and ask you for the title of this. And this might be certain questions about, you could put what they are. For that one middle school teacher, I think we made these the multiple choice questions, or it could be a video that I want the students to watch, because if you want the students to watch a video, you can put a video in here and they can watch it, and then you can add questions under the video, and you've kind of checked comprehension, or you can put in short answer and they can type in their own answers. Now, if you have Google Classroom or Canvas or a web page, the video could have been watched separately, kept the video out of the form, and they can watch it and then say, when you finish watching the video, then click on the form and answer the questions, or you can build the video into here. If I want to add a video here, I'm going to click on the right-hand side, add video. And if you're adding a video inside the form, the only place it can come from is YouTube. So you would have had to upload it to your channel on YouTube before you can put it in here. Or it may be a video that you've picked from YouTube that somebody else has published. Remember, before you show the kids a video, you need to have watched the video completely, and you may need to even share it before it's going to, you may even need to click approve in YouTube to make it work. If I knew the URL of the video, I could click on it, or if I knew the name of it, I could type it, but again, I wouldn't put it in here unless I'd seen it all. So I can select the video and click select. And there is a way under the dots, I can center that if I want to. And up here, you might put the title of the video. But notice this is not a question. So when you're inserting a video, there's no question with this. So what you would do after that is ask the question. And I want to show you something else. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to add I'm going to go to and make myself another question. And I'm going to add that, added a section and a title, and then I'm going to ask a question, and this one might be multiple choice. And notice over here, this is where you can shuffle the multiple choice answers if you want to. So someone that would answer option one, that option might be something else. So the option is, I don't have any idea what I've asked. Water, and maybe one of the questions I'm going to say is steam. And one of my answers is rain. I'm going to go with the video. Yeah, so the video had no place for us to put the answers. Now, because we turned this on as a quiz, remember, this is going to need an answer key, because multiple choice is one of the things that can answer for you. So maybe the answer to whatever my question was rain. So I'm going to want to check that to make that the answer. Add answer feedback. You do not have to fill this out, but if you want to, you click on it. It opened this other box. It's up here at the top of my screen. It says incorrect answers. And for this one, I may even say, please watch video again. And I can't, so if they put water, that's an incorrect answer, and it would say this. And if they'd put steam, that's an incorrect answer, it would have said this. There's not a way to say there's a different comment for whatever the incorrect answer is. And if it says, if you want to give them feedback for this question right now, for the correct answers, you don't have to, but you could. Please continue. I'm going to come back to this box in a little bit. I'm going to make another section. I'll show you what. You don't have to make more sections, but I have a purpose of something I want to show you. So if I would need to name it section 2, question 2, you can name it whatever you wanted to. I'm going to add a question under this section. And this section is, yeah, this is, I really need a question here, not really just question 2. Whatever. And now the answers are storm, who knows, hurricane. Okay, who knows what question to ask. The thing I wanted to show you that's kind of unique, and this is a bit advanced, so if you need help with this later. So you can go on and adding all your questions. Under multiple choice, I did show you that if you're on the question part, notice where it says water. If I wanted that instead to have a picture, there is a place to add a picture next to each question. There's a place to X out the answers and add more. And it looks like I've got 2 correct answers. Yeah. When I was clicking, I made 2 of those. I don't want those. Okay, so rain was the right answer. I want to go back to question 1 and do something a bit advanced. And if I throw you, I'm sorry. I'm going to click and I'm going to say go to section based on answer, because I told them if they got the wrong answer, I wanted them to watch the video again. But how do you make sure that they do that? If I turn on the dots, go to section based on answer, then I can say, okay, you chose water and that's the wrong answer. So I don't want you to go to the next section because that would be question 2. I'm going to click on that drop down arrow and I'm going to say, I want you to go back to section 2 because that's where I put the video. If you put steam, that was the wrong answer. If I want you to watch the video again, I can force you to go back to the video. If you put rain, that was the right answer. I want you to go to the next section, which it's already going to do. It says that, or I could say go to section 4. And then question 2, I could do the same thing. I think if I send them back to the video again, it would send them to question 1. So I don't know that you want to do that for every question, but there might be a reason that you want them to repeat something, at least for the first question. If I told set question 2 to do it, then when they watch the video, it would send them to question 1. So not sure I'd want them to go all the way over again, have to do them all again. So I might not. Anyway, so I'm going to click on the eyeball at the very top for preview and show you how this would work. I was collecting email addresses. Okay, I told it to shuffle every question. So it's asked them, it didn't ask them first name and last name and class, but you know, I put so few questions in there, that one doesn't bother me so much. If I'm not shuffling them, I do first name, last name, and then what class you're in. But if I really want to shuffle them, and because I made a new section, it doesn't, and these are required, they've got dots next to them, so I'm not going to be able to go on without doing something. Yesterday's knew my name. I'm going to have to put something. If you're practicing, you don't have to fill out the whole thing. I could have done a little bit of something, and so can the kids. They don't have to put out that accurate information, which is sometimes nice that it's collecting the email address. I'm going to click next. And here was the video, and they can click and watch it right now. There's nothing to stop them, I guess, from not watching it. When they finish watching it, click next. Some kids are going to think I don't need it. Go here. Well, it had water in it. I'm going to say, okay, water was my answer. I'm going to click next. And it threw me back. Now, it did not show me the answers, the feedback, because it doesn't really do that until you finish the quiz and you hit submit. So that really going to help to show them, say, go back to the video now. So now, in truth, there's nothing to force them to watch the video, but it did send them back there. Next, I'm back to the same question again. Maybe I'll try rain this time and click next. And I got it right, so it sent me to my question 2. And I'll say that's hurricane, and I'll hit submit. And I'm finished because that's all I had, and all I had written was practice and thank you. And it didn't show up with my auto-graded stuff. Wonder what I did wrong. Josh, you with me? Got any idea? I thought so. Who knows? Quizzes immediately after submission. That's why I didn't. Okay, so if I turned it on, then there would have been a button right there that would have shown me my grades. If I didn't, then in responses, I can look here at the summary of everybody's questions. I can click on the question, and then the neat thing about this, if I had 30 kids in this class, and it auto-graded their multiple choice, but what if I'd done short answer or long answer and I was going to have to grade that myself? I could go to a certain question and pretend like this one was short answer and they'd written a paragraph, and I could come over here and I could change the number of points for every one of those. And I could have graded it right here on the fly and give them the points. And instead of grading one student at a time, which I can do under individual, I can grade all of question 4 and then all of question 5. Again, you don't need to grade the multiple choice. It was already graded, but there are some questions and they're like a long paragraph if they wrote them that you'd want to decide how many points they got. Your questions do not all have to be the same points. Your long discussion question might have been a 10-point question at the end. So then I am going to go back to questions, and I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to change my settings to under quizzes immediately after submission and show you really quick what that looks like. I'm 2 minutes over. I'm sorry. Oh, well, that was easier. You've already responded, so now I can view my score. Maybe I have it so that I can. So if you've turned it on automatically, this is what it would look like if they, I must have been supposed to mark that any answer would have done right on that one. I did something wrong on that one because they're in second hour shouldn't have been graded. So I didn't fix that one right because it shouldn't have any points up here either. So I forgot to check that. Look down here where I've done question 1 and I finally got it correct. So it has a green button. I got question 2 wrong and it's going to have this. Also look on question 1, there is feedback. I did not add feedback on question 2. Okay, Josh, have you kept up with all the questions or should I show something again? I can hear you. He's giving me a thumbs up.